Second white coat. Subscribe and like. Let's learn medicine together.
All right, today we're going to play detective. We're diving into a medical mystery, one that affects millions of people. It's a case that always starts small, with these little clues that seem almost harmless at first, but they lead to something much, much bigger. So let's get right to it. Here's our first piece of evidence. So get this. Our central case is about a 70-year-old woman who gets lost coming home from the store, a store she's been to 1,000 times. Now, this isn't just one of those, oops, where did I park moments. No, this is a huge clue in a much bigger puzzle. It makes you wonder, right? What on earth is going on inside her brain?
To really get what's happening here, we have to zoom out. This isn't something that just happened today. It's actually a progressive mystery, one that's been quietly unfolding for the last couple of years.
Okay, look at how this unfolds over time. 2 years back, it's the kind of stuff you might just brush off, right? Misplacing things, struggling to find the right word. We've all been there. But then it gets more serious. Getting lost on a familiar trip, that's a major red flag. And now, fast forward to today, she can't manage her bills and is showing really poor financial judgment. You can see how the plot is thickening here.
So, just like any good detective, we gotta follow the clues. These symptoms, they're not random. They're actually creating a pattern that points us in a very specific direction. Let's just pause for a second and look at everything we've gathered. What is this collection of symptoms actually telling us about the problem we're trying to solve? What's the story here? All right, let's break down the evidence. First thing, this is a slow burn. It's a gradual, progressive decline, not something that happened overnight like a stroke. And the first big clue? Memory. That was the first and most prominent thing to go. But now, it's spreading. Her executive function, things like paying bills and making good decisions, is starting to fail. Same with her visuospatial skills, which explains getting lost. But here's the kicker. There are no focal problems. She can still walk just fine. Her basic reflexes are normal. What does that tell us? It means we're not looking for a single point of damage. This is something much more widespread, attacking the brain's main command centers.
Okay, now that we know the MO, the pattern of the crime, our next move is to find the crime scene. We need to pinpoint the exact location inside the brain where all this damage is coming from.
So just imagine for a second, we could get an MRI scan of her brain right now. Based on all the clues we have, especially the memory loss and getting lost, what part of the brain would you bet is showing the most damage?
And here it is, our prime suspect. It's called the hippocampus. It's this little structure tucked away deep inside your brain. And you can basically think of it as the save button for new memories. It's the part of your brain that takes what just happened and files it away for later. And in Alzheimer's disease, well, this is ground zero. This is where the trouble starts.
And this just connects all the dots perfectly. When the hippocampus is damaged, it explains every single one of those early symptoms. Forgetting what you did this morning, putting your keys in the fridge, asking the same question over and over. It's all because that save button just isn't working right. The brain is struggling to create new memories.
So, we found the location of the crime. But to really solve the case, we have to understand the murder weapon. That means we have to zoom in, like way, way in, past what an MRI can see, and investigate this thing at a cellular level.
So if we zoom way in, down to the microscopic level, we find our two main culprits. On one side, we have these things called beta amyloid plaques. The easiest way to think about them is like sticky junk that builds up between your brain cells, just gumming everything up. Then, on the other side, you've got neurofibrillary tangles. These are twisted up proteins that build up inside the brain cells, basically making them fall apart from the inside out.
And this shows you the devastating chain reaction that follows. First, that junk, the plaques and tangles, starts building up. Then, it starts messing with the communication lines between the brain cells. Without that connection, the cells start to die. And finally, this is the crucial part, as millions and millions of cells die off, the brain itself, especially that hippocampus we talked about, literally starts to shrink. That's the physical damage we'd see on a brain scan.
Now, any good investigation means you don't just focus on your main suspect, you have to rule out other possibilities. We need to be absolutely sure we've got the right culprit, so let's take a quick look at the other usual suspects when it comes to dementia.
Okay, so let's look at the usual suspects in our dementia lineup. Could it be vascular dementia? Probably not. That usually happens in sudden steps, tied to strokes. Our case is a slow, gradual decline. What about frontotemporal dementia? Well, that usually kicks off with big personality changes, not memory loss. And Lewy body dementia often involves things like hallucinations. So when you lay out all the evidence, there's only one suspect whose MO perfectly matches our case, and that's Alzheimer's.
So, after going through the timeline, analyzing all the clues, pinpointing the location of the damage, and ruling out all the other suspects, we're finally ready to deliver the verdict.
And there you have it. That's the conclusion. The fact that the hippocampus is damaged so early and so badly, well, that's the key that unlocks this entire mystery. It explains everything we've seen, from the simple act of misplacing something to getting lost on a street you've known your whole life.
So, what's the big takeaway here? I think the most important thing to get is that this isn't just getting old or being a little forgetful. Alzheimer's is a real, physical disease that causes measurable, tangible damage to the very part of our brain that's in charge of making new memories. So, we've cracked the case. We know the what and the why. But identifying the culprit is really just step one. The next great mystery, the one that's so much bigger, is how do we stop it? And that is the question that thousands of scientists and researchers all over the world are trying to answer every single day.